My name is Frederic Crozat. I'm working at SUSE, and among other things, I'm the maintainer of systemd in openSUSE. And the point of this talk / BOF is to discuss about systemd, where we are currently in openSUSE, what do we plan to do in the future, and also to talk a little bit, if we have time, about Dracut, which is another project that I pushed into Factory. So the agenda, talking about systemd, where we are at the moment in 12.2, what we will do for Factory in the coming days, I'd say, and all the work that still need to be done. And when I mean to be done, not only by me, but by everybody in the community. And also, we'll discuss a bit about Dracut. So, systemd. On purpose, I won't do a presentation about systemd. I already did last year, and it can be a little bit boring just to go through all the internals, all the commands, how to write units file, and so forth. So please go to the systemd website, where there is tons of documentation, and when I mean tons, everything is documented. So it's much more, I want to discuss, to talk about where we are. So for 12.2, I pushed the version 44 systemd. So don't be frightened, systemd is using the same kind of numbering as UDEV, which means every new release get +1. So there was the 1.0 release was very, very long ago, and you'll see what is the next release, which was released yesterday. But that's for later. So version 44 with some backports from the devel version. One major new feature in this release is journal. Again, I didn't implement journal, so I'm not the one to blame. But you'll see with 12.2 and with upcoming systemd, the journal is becoming really, really interesting and useful. So far, we had a lot less regression bugs in 12.2 regarding systemd compared to 12.1. The 12.1 situation was like, it's difficult to test everybody's system. Now I know that. I was expecting to have something like 1 month of development to integrate systemd in openSUSE 12.1. It took 3 months. And then we pushed it in Factory and Milestone. And apparently, people only test when a distro is released, which is not really useful when you push something really new, which is why for 12.1 we had a lot of regression, and it took about 2 or 3 months to fix most of the regressions caused by integrating systemd. Fortunately, we didn't have those regression for 12.2. There were 3-4 bugs which were reported. 3 are fixed, 1 is still under investigation. We are still not sure if it's a network bug, a network stack bug, or a systemd bug, but I'm expecting to do a maintenance release of systemd for 12.2 in, let's say, less than 1 month, and we should be okay. There are some bugs which have been reported in 12.1, still present in 12.2. For instance, when you boot your system, you get the TTY prompt before all the service print their status. This will be fixed with the next major release of systemd. I'll talk about that in a minute. I couldn't fix that for 12.2 because it was enforcing a lot of backports, too much backport. So, and it's kind of cosmetic bug. So first, do you have comments in the room about systemd in 12.2? Don't be shy. Yes. Want microphone?
Anyway, it's just short. So the best comment to make for me is...
Try again?
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe the best comment to make, at least for me, is I don't notice it. So it is apparently working for me.
So I think that's exactly what we expect with pushing systemd in the distro, is that most users won't notice it. For 12.1, too many users noticed, unfortunately. For 12.2, much less users noticed it. There was some work done, for instance, to be able to still use the RC foobar command for people used to do RC network start. We will be able to continue to ship that even when we drop the old init script. So the point of get a good integration in systemd is, as you said, most people shouldn't notice it. I'd say 95% of the commands or the old commands should still work. And I think from what I got from many people is like, apparently we, openSUSE, did a great job of integrating systemd compared to some other distro. Because we try to make sure that we didn't disrupt too much the whole system. Of course, there are bugs, always, but we try to reduce them as much as possible. Other comments on 12.2? No? Okay. So, what is next for Factory? So, next release, it's not 195, it was released yesterday. It's 194. I was one version ahead when I wrote my slides. So for Factory, in fact, I should do it this way. First, a new feature, and then we talk about Factory. There is a lot of new feature. Don't be frightened by the fact that we went from 44 to 195 or 94. The fact is, the main reason why there was a big bump in the release number is like UDEV got merged into systemd. That means that currently you have only one tarball, one Git clone, Git repository, and everything is there. That's why it was basically bumped from 44 to 180 something. And then after that, there was a regular release. So there is a lot of new feature compared to what we have in 12.2. I won't explain all of them because that's too much. And sometimes it's just a small feature. But among the new feature, one thing interesting is a new type of service, which is idle, which is a service type which was needed exactly to fix the TTY prompt before all service has been started. With sysinit, we were using something called after. We had a $all target, which was like wait until everything has been started to start something else, which was the prompt, or some scripts. And unfortunately, since systemd is completely dynamic, it's difficult to know when everything is started because it's still dynamic, so something else could start later. So the systemd folks introduced a new service type, idle, which will wait after, let's say, I don't remember exactly, 5 seconds. It's probably can be configured. After 5 seconds of all the service which has been started are started and running, let's run the idle service, for instance, the get TTY prompt. So this should help us fix this issue. Another very nice stuff is the improvement in the journal. You have stuff like easy query to the journal. You have some index to know each time the system was reboot. So you can ask, I'd like to see all the logs from the second boot before this one. You can go back in the past. You can do, as I said, queries like I'd like all the logs from the service, the network service or the Apache service. You have something which is very plain stupid, but which is not when you use less to check your logs. It's color output in the journal by default, which I find it very useful to just see in red the error in the logs. You can do that with Emacs or VI, but if you were using less to check your logs, you didn't add that. So that's a nice addition. There was one security feature I did also, which is the forward sealing system. What you can do is generate a key on your system, print this key or keep it on a post-it on your physical system, so outside your system, and then all your logs in the journal are cryptologically signed with this key, and each of the logs entry are signed in chain, just like in Git. So it will be possible easily to first check that all the logs have not been tampered and they have been issued by systemd. So that's a nice security feature. It's not enabled by default. It's up to admin to enable that. You have better integration with containers. Systemd has its own very dumb container technology. You can plug it with LXC and stuff like that. So the idea is to be able to start a container with a distro without even having to tamper with the distro. Currently, we had to disable some services and so on, so that it works fine in a container. I didn't have time yet to test that. We are container modification free at the moment, but I'm hoping to have that soon. We have a lot of new conditions in service file, so you can have, I don't want this service to start when one file exists or doesn't exist in the disk, etc. Now, systemd plan to make PM utils obsolete. So it will handle suspend, hibernate, and lead switch command. Yes, one question in the back.
Does this mean that even lit switch and suspend switch might work when the screen lock when the screen is locked, for example? Does it handle it really completely, or does it still need to forward an event from the desktop?
There is some communication with the desktop, so the desktop can prevent, inhibit, or not suspend, hibernate compared to whatever it wants.
The keys are directly handled by systemd.
Yeah. So basically,
that's cool.
Systemd, I mean login-d, which is one part of systemd, which is handling the multi-seats and various other stuff. Has a dbus interface to handle inhibit or to handle suspend, hibernate, lead switch. So after that, it's up to uPower and other daemon to integrate with login-d /systemd this way. And one thing I forgot, there is a set of hooks kind of similar to PM utils in systemd, so you can still drop some your own scripts to be run by when you want to hibernate or suspend.
Okay, because I mean, first I was trying to fix up some PM util stuff, which I can probably
skip now, and the other is that I was really wondering because the desktop was handling all the stuff, basically the notification. As soon as the screen lock kicked in, you actually could no longer suspend by hitting Fn F4 or on a ThinkPad or by closing the lid again. And I was thinking about patching this into the screensavers, which is silly, but it would have been necessary, and this makes it probably obsolete. That's fine.
It might depend how it's this Fn F4 or whatever key is propagated in the kernel, but usually it's an event.
Yeah, it's a plain input event. So
it's an event, and since systemd and UDEV have merged, and it should be okay.
I like it.
Among other things, /media is no longer TMPFS. It was introduced by systemd. The reason is that now the user mount points should be located in /run/user/ the username. This is what udisk2 is doing at the moment. I think KDE has not switched yet to UDEV2, to udisk2, sorry. But in the end, we won't have /media as TMPFS. And one thing which is changing again, and people in factory might have noticed there is a slight bug currently. var run and var lock, they used to be bind mount to /run and /run/lock by systemd, and now they should be symlink to those paths, except that we have a slight bug in doing the migration because RPM doesn't like transforming a directory into a symlink. And doing that while the system is running is a bit difficult when you have file open in the old location. So currently, this is working for var run. This is not working for var lock for some users, except me, of course, because when I did the code, it was working fine. So if you have ideas on why I can't move a file, it says device used. It's a file, it's a directory. Say device used and whatever, and LSOF doesn't display anything using this directory. And it's not mounted anymore, so I'm open to ideas. So this is in Bugzilla, this is in factory mailing list. Please help, because I don't have a clue. I ask Kulo and other, and at the moment, nobody knows. If we can't get it right, I mean, I'll add back the bind mount, but it would be nice if we could be just as upstream. So that was some of the new feature in systemd, the upcoming systemd. And now we have to land it in factory. And landing the new systemd is a bit tricky. Let's say it that way. Why is that? Because first, as I said, UDEV has been merged in systemd. I was nice. I made sure that UDEV is still a separate binary package for people who still want to use sysinit. I could have merged it completely, but I thought it would be easier for now to just keep it separate. So, in fact, now or soon, UDEV will be generated by the systemd package, systemd source package, but it will be a separate binary package which doesn't require systemd. Second, or even third point, we are moving UDEV and systemd to /usr, which is what upstream has been doing in their distro, I mean Fedora. Magia had done the switch. We started to do the switch progressively in 12.2. It's not complete. So we have to do some tricks like moving files and packages in RPM scripts, because again, RPM doesn't like to move files and transform directories into symlinks. What it implies also is that packages should no longer install udev rules in /lib/udev/rules.d, but in /usr/lib/udev/rules.d. And for systemd service file, the same, no longer /lib/systemd/system, but /usr/lib/systemd/system. Thank you. But we made sure that both udev and systemd will still be able to read the old path. So it's mostly a matter of cleaning the distro. It would be nice if 12.3, if it's called 12.3 or whatever its name, the next openSUSE release will ship by default with no files in those, let's say, obsolete directories. If people have still other package or random installer, I don't know, NVIDIA, you name it, which install files in those old directories, doesn't matter. They will still be handled. But we, as a distro, should do the cleaning stuff. Yes, Robert.
Are you going to add something to RPM there?
It's already done. Yeah, it's done. It's disabled, but and I've already cleaned up mostly all factory. And I've made sure that it still can build with the old distribution. So the package are quite smart. Yes.
So how is the information about this change of path distributed to package maintainers?
So I didn't yet post the mail to packaging and factory, and probably a blog post, for the reason that we worked with Kulo on this systemd release in a staging project, just to, since we were merging udev and systemd, there was a lot of bootstrapping issues. And I basically did all the cleanup needed in packages. I already did the SR for all the packages in factory. So I was planning to announce the switch for factory with this new version of systemd, at the same time give all the information for other people.
Should it be this way that you are doing all the work?
It depends. It was like 20 package, so it wasn't that much. We had discussion with Andreas Jäger about should we, because if you look at how I did it, I didn't use an RPM macros for the udev rules there. I could have done that, but unfortunately, it would have been best to do that in 12.2 because currently, if we create a new udev rules there, which has a new path, it won't work on package if you want to rebuild your package on the old distribution. So, and we won't do udev release for 12.2 just with a new RPM macro just to fix packages. So, and I don't expect those paths to change again in the future because one time is enough. So what did I say? Oh, that's nice. I forgot to remove parts which are on the other slides. So yeah, what did I say? Move udev rules to the new path, already explained. Same for systemd files. Other things which are caused by the new udev code. If you have rules which are with run plus socket rules, at the moment we have, I think, 3 packages using that. 2 are already fixed, which was LVM device mapper. The third one is multipath, and I already discussed with our dear maintainer who is discussing with upstream and who is partly upstream, so it should be fixed soon. And also one thing which is important, and it will be in the announcement mail I'll send on factory and packaging, is if you were starting, let's say daemon in udev rules, because some of you are doing that, I know that. If you were doing that, and if udev is starting under systemd, Those processes will be killed when the rules is finished processing. Why is that? It's simply to force people to use systemd services to implement this, because you can do a systemd services which is started by systemd when a UDEV rules is being processed. So it's just to clean up the mess and make sure that all the process which need to be persistent in the system when a UDEV rules is processed are handled by systemd, and not some are left in the UDEV space. So to maintain a good view of the system, this should be handled by systemd. If you are still using the new UDEV under CCNIT, you don't have to care. So, what do we need to fix in factory? /etc/init is gone. This is part of CCNIT being removed from factory. Currently, we have at least, I think, one package which needs to be killed. It is limol-run level, and I think it was Bernard or Marius who told me, "Oh, I'm going to kill it next week, so you don't care." One thing which is needed is YAST to be fixed to handle systemd services, because at the moment it's still running through the run level compatibility layer, and even if we still have run levels, it would be best if YAST could talk directly to systemd to enable services, disable services, and so forth. One thing which will soon disappear, not yet, but soon. Currently in systemd we have some code to handle the boot.star init script differently than all the other init scripts, which means they are being started before all the rest. And it's distro specific. I mean, Debian has a similar way. We have something a bit different, and basically upstream want to remove this part, this special case in their code, and I can understand that. Though they highly suggest to move those files to proper systemd unit file. Yes, one question.
Okay.
Yep.
So I have a question. Will you provide a sample service file with the dependencies I should use for the boot.something scripts replacement?
It will be difficult to do a sample one, but it's. I think we could do some. Here is your init script. Here is how you can write an equivalent service file which would fit, because it's just a matter of even for boot.star init script, it's just a matter of adding the right dependencies. So yes, it should work. Okay, it's a matter of documentation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So the help will be greatly appreciated to do that. Also, it would be nice, since we have the journal in systemd, to not enforce a syslog implementation, which means if people want syslog, any kind of syslog, I don't have a religion about that. Huh? We are not going to start a fight between syslog-ng, rsyslog, whatever you want. So it would be nice if we could basically just uninstall any kind of syslog and still be able to run a system, since we have the journal. And if people want to have syslog, they can just install it. Currently, Andreas tried to do that, and we have apparently some package requiring hardly syslog implement, one syslog. So that's just some cleanup. I didn't list it in the work to be done because it was already done, so CCNIT is gone. And also, that's much more a long-term goal is to write systemd native file to replace init script. Why doing that? Because you have much less process started when you run a service, native service file rather than an init script. To give you an example, currently K checked basic system booting with systemd compared to what it was before systemd was introduced. Currently, you have 150 PID at the end, which has been started from the boot to the system is ready to be used. And before systemd was introduced, it was 1,500 PID. So basically, we scaled down by 10 the number of PID started, which might explain why booting with systemd is slightly faster than before. I don't know. So that's one of the reasons which would be nice to have much more systemd service file. And another reason is that with that, we can leverage some systemd feature like on-demand start of service. I know, I think it's Michal who do a presentation, a talk this afternoon on a 2-second boot, where he used that a lot. So to make sure that, I don't know, for instance, if you use cups, usually you don't need cups to be started until you start printing, unless your system is a printer server, of course. So for most people, having cups as an on-demand started service, which should be the default on 12.2 already, but having that is a nice cleanup of the system, and doing that more and more. I don't know, maybe SSHD or whatever, you name it. This way we would have less process running by default. System would boot faster, and that's it. What else? Do you think there is still some work to be done in factory? Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, sorry. You need a microphone. Otherwise, the video team will kill you.
You are removing sysv init. Will this mean we can remove console for 2 so we can have login CTL handle the seeds and so on?
So console kit removal. We could have done it at the same time we switched to the new systemd, but after discussing with Kulo, Dominic, and the other folks, we are going just to push the new systemd factory first, and then the week after we can drop console kit. That's basically the plan. There are some patches needed in various display manager, because GDM is already patched, just a flag to change in the spec file. There are patches already waiting for KDM. All the other display manager have probably already some patches in various distro. But yes, the goal is to kill console kit, since systemd with logind provides the exact same feature, except that it's even better because you have multi-seats correctly implemented and integrated in logind. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Other question, remarks? Yes, in the back. Sorry, let's wait for the microphone.
Okay.
Yep.
You seemed to have moved everything to /user.
Yep.
And I wonder what happens if I have /user on a separate block device and
On a separate?
Separate block device, for example, on another disk partition or something like that.
It's not an issue because since 12... sorry, you want to finish? Or?
So basically this will work. And what if I have for example, that block device fails to mount, so I don't have nothing in /user. In the original sysv init, I was able to use the basic services and the basic system that was in the root file system. And what happens now?
Okay, so first, not everything has been moved to /user. I'm only speaking about systemd and udef. What you need to understand is that since 12.1, /user is being mounted by initrd. So all that is needed to mount /user is in initrd when you generate your initrd. Mm-hmm. So mount, what if you have, I don't know, encrypted your /user, so all the crypto stuff has been put in initrd, so you're safe. If it's on NFS, you name it. It should work out of the box. Another question in the back.
Related to that,
yep.
How much has your initrd grown since you're putting FSCK in it, so that you can check user before you mount it?
Sorry?
So now you're putting things into the initrd and the initramfs.
Yep.
So now you also have to put FSCK.
It was already there before we moved /usr there.
For all the file systems, or just the ones that you
Just the one which, when you generate your initrd, mk initrd checking is checking the file system type and is putting just the needed FSCK implementation.
Okay, so that's a couple of megabytes that you're using. Okay, Gentoo's looking on the same problem. So
yeah, and that's great because you're giving me my next slides topic. Unless there are other questions on systemd, you can still ask questions on systemd after my slides. But so Dracut, excellent transition. You talked about initrd, and let's talk about initrd. What is Dracut? Basically, Dracut is a new implementation of an initramfs generator. The idea is that it's supposed to be cross-distribution. Why? Because basically nobody wants to maintain its own initrd generator. It's a difficult job. I mean, Michal for SUSE, openSUSE is doing a great job, but it's taking him a lot of time, and the same for all distribution. If you've never seen the previous initrd implementation on Fedora before Dracut was introduced, it was a nightmare. We used it also when I worked at Mandriva, and it was a nightmare. So the folks at Fedora thought it would be nice to put every distro doing the work one time and share it, a little bit like systemd, but it was started before systemd. And at the moment, it's used by Fedora. I forgot it's also used by Magia and Mandriva, I guess. And I used my time during the latest Hack Week, at SUSE to get Dracut into factory. Mike Gorsis also used his Hack Week time to implement some new modules in Dracut, which were already in MK initrd. So I'll talk about that in the next slide. One thing which is optional in Dracut is you can use systemd, recent systemd, as the event scheduler. At the moment, everything is done in Bash, a little bit like MK initrd. So you have a set of Bash scripts with dependencies, and Dracut just basically computes dependencies at generation time and then run it. Kind of similar to what we have with sysinit. And the idea is to replace this part in Dracut with systemd, since systemd is already written, generate and handle dependencies, can react to UDEV event, which is great, because when you wait for a disk to appear, it would be nice that just when it has appeared, your boot continues and stuff like that. And also UDEV have code to handle mounting stuff and so on. So more code would be shared between initrd and the rest of the boot process. A nice thing also in Dracut, it has a test suite. And you want that, because currently we don't have that in mk-initrd. So as always, you can always introduce regression. And Dracut has its own test suite. It uses KVM, QEMU to be able to generate, for some heavy stuff, generate a server, an NFS server, and an NFS client to test that NFS route is working and stuff like that. So I worked during my hack week on getting it to pass 100% test suite. It's not at 100%. There were some issues with iSCSI and I think NFS route, but we weren't sure it was NFS v4. Yes, NFS v3 is working. So we weren't sure it was a bug in the test suite, because I found bugs in the test suite because test suite was only tested on Fedora, and we have slight difference between Fedora and openSUSE. But still, and also one other reason why we should switch from mk-initrd to Dracut is that I don't know how many of you know that, but we currently have in the distribution 3 different initrd. We have one for the installer, one for Kiwi. I mean, Kiwi generates its own initrd, and one for the basic distro. And it would be nice if instead of having code in 3 places, which sometimes isn't synced, like initial integration of systemd was like, okay, we need to fix some bugs in mk-initrd, nice. And then, 1 month later, we discover that, but there is the same code copied somehow in Kiwi. So everything was working fine if you were using the standard mk-initrd, but if you were generating an image with Kiwi, it wasn't booting correctly. So having the code in a single place would be nice. And so I didn't list all the features which are just in Dracut and which aren't in mk-initrd, because it's about the same number of features on both sides which are missing on the other side. But on our side, we have some features which are not in Dracut, which could be implemented by any of you, since it's just writing plain shell script, so it's easy. We are missing DSDT support. There is some skeleton, but it needs to be improved, so you could give to Dracut your optional DSDT file, and it would be used. blogd, I'm not sure it's needed anymore since we have systemd, but it's up to discuss. RTC times / zone info, this one might not be needed anymore because I used some old list I did a long time ago. EC2, we have EC2 modules in mk-initrd. It might be needed, but when you look at the module we have, it's just basically a workaround, so maybe it's not needed anymore. Kdump, this is something we need because that's nice to be able to get your kernel crash dump on disk. So currently there is no support for Kdump in Dracut. And tab migration, it's basic. It's just a matter of, after mounting /root, checking that if there is etc mtab, just replace it with a symlink to /proc/self/mtab mounts, I think. So nothing rocket science. We have, this is the supported option for kernel modules. This is a SLES feature, so not really openSUSE work to do. And Net Console, Dracut doesn't have it, or maybe it got it now, but that's something which would be nice to do. And I forgot, I had a list of the feature we have, only Dracut. So why we should switch to Dracut if I didn't convince you already. So Dracut currently used by default Bash, but it could use Dash, which is smaller, so that would be nice. It has integrated bootchart support. Of course, nowadays with systemd having a kind of bootcharts feature, it's less needed, but still. It has FIB support, which is to check the integrity of the initrd. It can drop capabilities. It can, yes, something which I'm missing a bit in openSUSE. Internalization support for fonts and key map when you type your password. Would be nice to not be forced to type it in QWERTY for, I don't know, French people typing on AZERTY keyboard or Russian people or whatever. It has support for live image. So as I said, this would be useful for Kiwi. What else? GPG support to crypt setup. We are not using that, so not that big need for us. Some crazy stuff for systemd and crazy system. NBD support, so network support, additional network support, encryptFS, EVM, so again, integrity check, master key support, and syslog to push your logs on remote server. So a lot of feature. One thing I forgot, when we tested with Dracut, the size of a Dracut generated image compared to a same image with mkinitrd was smaller. Apparently it's a little bit smarter in copying what is just needed when you generate an image which is only for your system. You can generate all-in-one image which will run with everything, which is huge. You can also do that with mkinitrd, or you can just generate an image which is tailored only for your system. So for instance, if you don't use, I don't know, NFS, you won't have the NFS support and so on. So what needs to be done for Dracut to maybe replace mkinitrd? A wrapper to be able to install Dracut as mkinitrd drop-in. There is already a wrapper called mkinitrd, as you can guess, but it's not. It was written to replace the Fedora mkinitrd, and our mkinitrd doesn't have exactly the same command line options, so that would need a little work. And as I said, to write some modules to create the missing feature compared to mkinitrd. So Mike, during his hack week, wrote a CIFS modules, because Dracut wasn't supporting CIFS, we were supporting it. And it was like, the day after he sent it upstream, it was already merged in Dracut. The Dracut guys are extremely open. They really want this to succeed. And with that, question about Dracut or systemd, we still have 10 minutes, a little more than 10 minutes. Or you can run for lunch if you are hungry. Yes, wait for the... Where is the mic? It's coming to you.
I just want to ask, do you see some issues or bugs even which are still in systemd and which should be fixed in upstream?
Currently, the biggest complaint we have, I mean, I've asked people on factory and on factory mailing list and on IRC, and when you remove all the trolls, of course. The main complaint is the lack of, let's call it, exec status support, which means for stuff like containers, VM. At the moment with CCNIT, when you were running, I don't know, RC, LXC status, it was running an executable to check if the container was still running or not, because if it's a container of a virtual machine, it might not be a single process to check. And systemd doesn't really handle that, because when you start this kind of stuff, it might not be a process to track with C groups and or PID file. So this is the main complaint I got from the community. I've discussed with upstream. They are aware of this issue. They plan to fix it. They don't have a timetable right now for this. One thing they say is that if they fix it, the day they fix it, it won't be, those kind of service won't be first-class citizen compared to all the other, because currently the way systemd handle service is like relying on the kernel for C group being empty and those kind of API. And if you have to run user space program each time you want to check if the service is still running, of course it's much more slower. You have to do from PID1 to some other PID and go back. So they will fix it, but I don't exactly know when, and it won't be as pretty as it could be. And but also one complaint, which was so there was somebody, or I don't remember exactly. Somebody asked me about Apamour, and there was similar complaint about IP table upstream. When you were restarting a service, it was stopping and then starting, so you were left with a window of vulnerability. And now this has been fixed in systemd like last week. So you will be able to have this fixed. Also, another complaint was not for init script or daemon relying on separate exec status, because at the moment systemd expect an exec status of 0, meaning no error, and sometimes you get something like 7 because it was not configured or whatever, but it shouldn't be treated as an error. And now with the upcoming systemd in factory, you can specify this in the service file. Other question? Comments? You don't want to throw me tomatoes? Okay, no? Yes, one question in the back. Microphone is arriving. Yes?
If I try latest Dracut package on, say, factory, for what worst pitfalls would I have to look out for? I guess the other initRD is overwritten, and should it just work? What might not work?
I didn't hear the beginning of your
If
comment.
I install the latest Dracut package,
yep.
Create an initRD, what kind of pitfalls I could run into?
Yeah.
Shall it just work? Or?
So at the moment, the Dracut package doesn't generate, I'll have to double check, but it won't override the initRD from your system. It will create the initRD under a different name. And it's up to you. It's not merged into Perl bootloader either. So it won't add, it won't modify your grub2 configuration or whatever. So it's up to you to create an additional entry to use Dracut generated initRD. Mostly because I didn't have time. I'm not crazy enough to touch Perl bootloader, and It's still under development, so just replacing initrd generated by mk-initrd was a little bit frightening. So it's in factory, might not be the latest release, but I just have to update it. And you can already start to play with it, and it won't screw your system, which was the main stuff I wanted to be sure. Does this answer your question? Yeah. Other question?
I have another question.
Yeah.
I currently have a bug for 12.2. On some platforms, if you wake up the suspended system via power button, there is another power button event coming behind, and it shuts down the system again.
It's already fixed. It was a bug in suspend package caused by me. When I wrote the code for handling Plymouth at Mandriva 5 years ago, nobody noticed it until 2 months ago.
Perfect.
So it shows that when you read the code, it's obvious that, okay, I didn't check for the error case. If, for instance, Plymouth is not installed and it goes crazy. And I guess when we did the integration of Plymouth in Mandriva, we kind of enforced Plymouth, you couldn't uninstall it. And this is not the case on openSUSE. You can still uninstall Plymouth, and then the code went crazy. So it should be fixed, and if I remember correctly, the maintenance update for suspend was even released. So,
thanks a lot. Cheers.
Yeah. Other question? Yes.
Upstream put a lot of effort into making everyone feel bad for using shell during boot. And now you say it's easy to write Dracut modules because it's in shell.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of weird? I mean, you already put systemd in the initRD, so just use native systemd services in the initRD as well?
So at the moment, as I said, Dracut was written initially as basically a set of shell script. And so they are switching to systemd as a central way of handling events. And of course, in the future, the idea would be to replace progressively those modules, those shell scripts, with service file. But when you look at most of the modules, it requires a lot of parsing the command line and so forth. So there will still be some shell script, but they are not at the point where they want to ditch everything. So I agree that it feels strange, but on the other hand, having the same code in the initRD and later in the boot process, it is much more clean than having two diverging or potentially not synchronized code, which happens often.
So we could actually stick to our MK initRD for now and wait until Dracut is at a point where it finally doesn't use shell anymore.
We could. I mean, I have myself a lot of work currently, so I don't plan to push Dracut for the next release as the default. Of course, if we can get more people to test it, to implement what's missing, it will be much easier to have something almost ready for 12.3 and maybe switch it to by default for 12.4, 13. Whatever. So, but I welcome your help. Other question? We are almost out of time, and I feel that everybody is hungry. So thank you very much.